62,000 lire. That is what my mother had in the envelope every Monday in Avellino in 1961 to feed 6 children for 7 days. I watched her count it on the kitchen table, smoothing each bill flat like it might grow. But here is her miracle. We never once sat down to a sad dinner. Tonight I am walking you through the 20 dinners she cooked when that envelope ran thin, and every one of them still costs under $10 today. The last one costs almost nothing. It is also the one that makes me cry. Monday the envelope was full, so Monday meant pasta e fagioli. Cannellini beans soaked overnight in the big chipped bowl, then onion, celery, and the rind of last month's Parmigiano, which she kept in a tin like jewelry. The beans went creamy, the broken spaghetti went in, and the pot fed all of us twice. Today you make it for about $4. My father used to say a man who eats pasta e fagioli on Monday can survive anything by Friday. He was right. Tuesday, if the day ran long, she made spaghetti aglio e olio, garlic sliced thin as paper, olive oil, a pinch of dried peperoncino from the string by the window. 5 minutes. She said it was the dish of midnight and of empty pockets, because in Naples the men coming home from the night shift made it themselves. You can smell when the garlic is ready. Golden, never brown. Brown garlic, she said, is a confession that you walked away from the stove. Then came pasta e patate, and yes, you heard me right, pasta and potatoes in the same pot. My American grandchildren laugh at this, 2 starches holding hands, but that was the point. Starch was cheap, and bellies were deep. She melted the potatoes down until they went creamy, added the little mixed pasta, the broken bits from the bottom of every package, and if there was a scrap of provola, it went in at the end and pulled into strings. $2 of ingredients, a hug in a bowl. Some evenings there were eggs, and eggs meant uova in purgatorio. Eggs poached right in the tomato sauce in purgatory, waiting to be saved by a piece of bread. 1 egg per child, sauce stretched with water and patience, and the bread did the heavy work. Hey, don't make that face. You have eaten shakshuka in a restaurant for $16. Same idea. My mother's version cost her less than a lira per mouth, and nobody left the table before the pan was wiped shining. Wednesday was for lentils. Pasta e lenticchie, the little brown ones from Irpinia, cooked with a bay leaf and 1 smashed garlic clove. Lentils were luck. Lentils were coins. That is why we eat them at New Year. She served them like we were rich already. When the garden gave escarole, she made scarola e fagioli. Bitter greens wilted into white beans with oil, and a whisper of anchovy from the tin. The anchovy was her secret weapon all her life. 1 fillet, melted invisible, and suddenly a pot of greens tasted like it had a history. In late summer, everything ripe went into 1 pan, and that was ciabatta. Eggplant, peppers, potatoes, zucchini, whatever the garden confessed that morning, stewed slow until the vegetables forgot where one ended, and the next began. We ate it warm at noon and cold at night, and it was better cold. Don't argue with me on this. Peppers on their own became stuffed peppers, but not the meat ones you see now. Hers were filled with rice, stale bread, capers, a few olives, and herbs. The bread was yesterday's, always. In her kitchen, bread had 3 lives: fresh, then toasted, then transformed. Throwing bread away was a sin she ranked somewhere above lying. and leftover pasta. Madonna. Leftover pasta was the best day of the week because leftover pasta became frittata di pasta. Cold spaghetti, 2 beaten eggs, a hot pan with oil, pressed flat and fried until the bottom crackled like a drum. My brother Enzo once traded his whole lunch at school for 1 wedge of it. The boy who traded got the better deal, and Enzo knew it, and he did it anyway. That is how good it is. In the cold months, the pot filled with polenta, yellow cornmeal stirred for an hour, poured straight onto the wooden board in the middle of the table, with 1 ladle of tomato sauce spread thin across the top. We each ate our territory from the edge inward. Polenta was the North's poverty, and pasta was ours. But hunger speaks every dialect. Summer had its own soup, cucusa, the pale green squash long as your arm, simmered with onion and finished with beaten egg. My aunt grew them on a fence and gave us the ones too curly to sell. Chickpeas got their night too. Pasta e ceci, with rosemary and a ladle of the cooking water gone silky. Romans have eaten this for 2,000 years. When you cook it, you join a very long table. Peas meant pasta e piselli, sweet little peas melted into soft onion, small pasta swimming through. This was the dish for the youngest, my sister Pina, because there was nothing to chew and everything to love. By Thursday, the envelope was getting quiet, and Thursday was cabbage. Pasta e verza, cabbage cooked down slow with a little pork fat, if we had it, until it went sweet and silky. Cabbage cost almost nothing then, and costs almost nothing now, about $1 a head, and it still shocks people what an hour of low heat does to it. Friday, no meat anyway, so Friday could be a feast of dough. Pizza fritta. She fried rounds of bread dough in oil until they puffed like pillows, and we ate them hot with just salt, or with a smear of sauce, or on a good week, a little sugar for the children. In Naples, after the war, the women sold these from doorways because ovens were expensive, but a pot of oil was not. Fried today, paid in 8 days. That was the saying. Credit written in dough. Now listen, because from here the dinners get thinner, and this is where my mother stopped cooking recipes and started cooking courage. When there was no money for the market, she took a knife and a sack into the fields and came home with wild chicory and dandelion, and that became minestra. Foraged greens, beans, if any were left, water, oil, bread underneath. The fields fed us free of charge. She called it the meal God plants. When there was no meat for Sunday sauce, she made sugo finto, fake sauce, onion, carrots, celery, cooked so long and so slow that the pot smelled exactly like a roast that was never there. She let that smell drift into the stairwell on purpose, so the neighbors would nod and think, they are doing fine. Pride was an ingredient too. Nobody ever measured it, and she used it every single day. When there was no cheese, and there were many weeks with no cheese, she toasted breadcrumbs in oil with a little garlic and rained them over the spaghetti. Pasta sea mudica, the Southerners call it, the poor man's Parmigiano. And here is the joke history plays. Chefs in Milano now sprinkle toasted crumbs on 20-euro plates and call it texture. My mother invented texture in 1959 because the cheeseman wanted money she did not have. I use more crumbs than cheese to this day, by choice now. That word matters. Choice. Near the bottom of the envelope, there was pancotto, cooked bread, stale bread simmered in water, with a bay leaf, garlic, and oil, until it became something between soup and porridge, soft enough for my grandmother's 4 remaining teeth, and warm enough for a child to sleep on. You are thinking that sounds like nothing. It tastes like the opposite of nothing. It tastes like somebody refused to give up. And then there was the last dinner, the one for the night the envelope was empty. Aqua cotta, cooked water, 1 onion, oil, a piece of bread in the bottom of the bowl, an egg dropped in if the hens were kind. I remember one Thursday in March, I was maybe 9, I watched her serve 5 bowls and sit down in front of nothing. And when I asked, she smiled and said she had eaten while she cooked. I believed her for 20 years. She fed us with water. She fed us with bread. She fed us with the lie that she was full. That was the 20th dinner, and it was the most expensive dish on this whole list, because she paid for it herself. So now you know what I know. Every dinner tonight costs under $10, most under $5, and each one came out of a kitchen that had less than you have right now. Which is the question I leave in your lap. If she built all this from an empty envelope, what is really stopping you at dinner tonight? The money or the courage? Tell me in the comments which of these your family made and what your Nonna called it, because every village had its own name. Next week, I cook my mother's Sunday sauce, the real one, from the weeks the envelope stayed fat. Vieni, I'll leave the door open. Word count, 1584.